without peace, there will be no stability nor security. The concepts of cooperation and consensus are opposed to the rhetoric of narratives that seek to impose a sectarian vision of a civilization, development, human rights, and democracy. Political models derived from the experience of a single country have been elevated to the condition of the only acceptable standard for the entire world, a standard whose adoption is mandatory lest those values are imposed through traditional warfare, coups, or blockades or sanctions. The rich diversity of human civilization is dismissed, and the different development paths and models pursued by different nations from this point of view are disregarded, and it is an attempt to impose a single path for development and a single vision of democracy in its neoliberal version, which is at the root of the proliferation of fascist regimes. Rather than mere objective phenomena that weaken the patterns of globalized economic and financial relations, notions such as decoupling and de-risking are indeed political weapons used to curtail the rise of new players in the international arena. The very dynamics of globalization, although currently weaker, has given rise to a deep interdependence among economies and regions of the world, an interconnection that has grown in tandem with the increase in international trade, the greater density of global value chains, and the multiplication of capital flows. What is an issue today is exorbitant privilege itself, an expression coined by de Gaulle's Minister of Finance to define the position acquired by the US dollar. The fact that for many decades the world has accepted the existence of a single international reserve currency has given rise to an asymmetric financial system that has always generated greater advantages for the country issuing that currency. Besides the fact that U.S. companies are, by definition, protected from exchange rate risk, which is not the case with other countries, there are the huge gains of the dollar derived from the fact that others are forced to sell goods and services in order to obtain dollars, while Americans obtain them simply by printing money. Even more importantly is the privilege of financing the U.S. public deficit by all international economic agents who need to have dollar-denominated assets, which are recycled and kept in U.S. and international financial institutions under the strict regulatory control of the Fed. The abuse of this last privilege, enacted through the sequestration of sovereign international reserves under the name of financial sanctions, has given rise to questions worldwide concerning the inherent arbitrariness of the global monetary order.
In short, the intensification of bilateral trade between currencies and the returns to scale generated from it can reduce the transaction costs between the buyers and sellers' currency, as well as protect against shocks arising from interest rate and exchange rate fluctuations. Data published by the Bank for International Settlements show a continuing growth in foreign trade in currencies of emerging economies, and they say it's also largely the result of significant transactions with emerging economy assets in capital markets. In any case, the growing participation in global trade and capital market transactions involving emerging economies suggests that the dominance of the dollar will diminish further, making the global monetary system more diverse and multipolar, with the currencies of major developing countries gaining in importance. On the issue of the environment, as a result of the severe social and natural challenges of the current century, economic development must be always viewed as sustainable development. This means development that depends critically on a healthy environment and on a society built on a foundation of equality. This was the vision set out in all the landmark international agreements on the subject, starting with the Rio 20 Declaration, and then going on to the Paris Agreement, the UN Agenda 2030, and the UN Convention on Biological Diversity.